Welcome back to the Highly Sensitive Woman podcast, a hub for sensitive and intuitive women to feel comforted, supported, and whole in their healing journey. We dive into holistic health, energy work, mysticism, neurodivergence, and so much more for a community of women who feel it all. I'm your hostess, Brittany Nelson, Ayurvedic health counselor, yoga teacher, hypnotherapist, and highly sensitive soul. You can learn more about my one-on-one work at earthintuitive.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we have a special guest, Lisa Van Zuylen. She's a soul designer here to help you transform spiritually, emotionally, and physically to work through any blockages keeping you from your happiest and best life. Today we are talking about the power of processing. So I'm talking about processing our emotions, processing heavy, dense energies that we maybe hold from our childhoods, past traumas, from our ancestry, and how when we process this, instead of stuffing it away or avoiding it or rejecting it, which is just the easier path to do, but it keeps those cycles going, when we really dive in and process it, this can lead to really harnessing our spiritual gifts. And so we talk about micro-processing, so we don't have to process everything at once and just let it take over our lives. We talk about how crying releases toxins and all sorts of other juicy, amazing things, all about processing, whether you are grieving, whether you're in a transition in your life, letting go of a relationship, a job, letting go of an old identity that you've been carrying, when you're really wanting to step forward and harness your true meaning here on this earth, your gifts, not a small thing. Processing and sitting with and moving this through is the one thing we all have to go through to really step into our true purpose here. So I can't wait to dive into this conversation, and I will add some notes about how to connect and work with Lisa at the end of our call. Hi, Lisa. How's it going?
Great. How are you?
Good. We were just chatting for a few moments, and I was telling Lisa about how I'm getting over this cold. I've had like this sickness that was lingering for like a week, and how when I started this illness, I was feeling like emotionally really low. And I've moved through a lot of stuff this week around my career, and now I'm feeling so much lighter, and like I'm sort of like taking a different direction a little bit. I'm still going the same way, but I'm like going in a different direction. And Lisa was like, you want to just share with everybody
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
said?
I was just sharing, we were just saying how, we were just working through a lot of emotions. And I said
Mhm.
that this past Sunday, I was just overcome with emotions, like overwhelming to the point where I couldn't even actually pinpoint why I was so sad. And then I was like trying to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, it could be this and this. But I felt like the amount of sadness I felt was much bigger than I think what I thought I was sad about. And it lingered into the next day. And then, and I felt like it was astrological plus purging of just emotions because I feel like I'm stepping into a newer, higher timeline. And sometimes these things just come up to purge. And I feel like it's a part of the process. So giving myself the time and the space to just cry and let it out. And then on Tuesday, I felt miraculous. So it's just not judging ourselves and like talking to ourselves like our best friend, or, and saying, what do you need right now? I'd be like, I just need to cry and be sad, and I don't even know why. And I went to this dance party, and it was fun for a minute, and then I just was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And like usually I'd be like, this is great, I love this. And I couldn't get into it. I just had to go home and cry and just,
Mhm.
and I was like thinking, I'm like, I have so many great things going for me. Why am I sad? It doesn't make sense. And I'm just like, let it out. Cry, even if it doesn't make sense, illogical, illogical, even if it's something small. That's something important to say. Honor every emotion you have, even if it's logical or illogical. Even if it's like something so minute that you think, I shouldn't be sad about this.
Mhm.
Our emotions are emotions, and they could be tied to so many different things. Like one emotion can be layered from another and another. So not beating ourselves up if we don't understand why our emotions are the way they are, but just honoring them and giving ourselves the time and the space to process it, and the kindness, yeah, and
Mhm.
the empathy for whatever it is.
Absolutely. And that's mostly what we're talking about today is the power of processing and how we often will talk about like the before and after or the big shiny result, but we don't always talk about the process of getting to our greatest timelines or activating our spiritual gifts or manifesting what we want. It really is a like a nitty-gritty down and dirty process. And I know for myself, I could speak for myself that allowing myself to cry without talking myself out of it has been so
Yeah.
difficult. Like, oh, I have a lot of privileges. This and this and that has gotten better. I have no right to cry about this little thing. But really, if we see our emotions as like weather patterns, like today it's a little bit cloudy, a little bit rainy, and that's just what it is, and it's gonna shift. But if we can allow and surrender into whatever's coming up, then that's going to help clear out stuff that's been there the whole time we had no idea about. And so, yeah, I would love to hear from you, Lisa, about just maybe a little bit of your story, like how you started on this path in terms of activating your spiritual gifts and how processing your pain, your emotions, your path, whatever it is you want to chat about today or share with us, like how that has really helped you kind of tune in and step into your bigger gifts.
Yeah, I feel like, and kind of the backstory, excuse me, I developed a lot of anxiety, I would say around like 13, and I had test anxiety, and I used to worry all the time, and I feel like that was just the environment I was in. Like, okay, if you worry about it, it's almost like a false sense of control, which I kind of find later, and especially when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, you're like, it's easier just to worry about it because it feels like you can control it. And then I found out worry is a negative prayer, and I'm like, okay, years later, like stopping that. So I had this anxiety, and then I feel like it just built up to the point 20 years ago. I had a panic attack, and my family's like, just take a Xanax. And I thought, I'm going to look into other ways to manage stress and anxiety. And which, no shame, medication's there to help us. I feel like it's a great tool, and, it's there to help anybody who needs it. But for me, in that moment, I didn't want to be reliant on it all the time. Like, I want to figure out what this was and why this was happening. Um, so that's when I just got into meditation. I learned how to read auras and chakras and past lives and do energy healing, got certified in trauma work. And I feel like the more I process my emotions when they came up, and whether that's past life, this life, ancestral lineage, whatever it is, the more clear I became, not only my life, but I feel like my psychic gifts developed more, um, because otherwise we're looking through, cloudy lenses.
Yeah.
And the more we process, the more we create space, also energetically, and see things. So, it's like just the past 20 years, I'll do anything if someone's like, this is going to improve your life. Like,
Mhm.
could be for me, for a friend, for a client, who, like, I'm going to try at least something once, because if it's going to help me embody the best version of myself, like, who doesn't want that? But I
Absolutely.
feel like it took me a while to be okay with crying, because even growing up, like, my dad would be like, stop crying, if I was crying, and like, I get it, that was his background, that was his family, and that's what his family was telling him, so of course he's not going to know any different. And then I actually went on this retreat once, and the leader of the retreat was saying that crying actually releases cancer causing toxins.
Mm.
And I want to say, yeah, this is about
Wow.
15 years ago. Yeah. And it, hearing that, but addition to not judging emotions and realizing that it's people don't realize when we hold in emotions, it's like that's when it manifests into dis-ease or illness or something, because we're not giving ourselves a permission, and our body's like, hey, I want you to pay attention. So it's like things like that can come up. And so I've gotten much more comfortable with crying, and when I'm laughing, because sometimes you could be, I'm overly consider myself a happy person. And sometimes I could be like, la, 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 like happy. And then just something happens, and all of a sudden I'm crying for like a few minutes, and then I'm back to my happy day.
Mhm.
Like, it's like, it's okay to be both. Like, you don't have to
Right.
be, just because you started out sad doesn't mean the rest of your day has to be sad. And like, just because you have these emotions, like, give yourself the grace to process them, but always remember to treat yourself like your own best friend, because you're going to be with yourself the rest of your life. So it's like, how can you be kind to yourself, as you're processing those emotions? But yeah, so just even though it's uncomfortable, there's sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to like process this, or like certain things come up. And then, I think we all come to a place where there it shows up when you're ready. When you're ready to process it, it'll come up, So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think just like what you just said about like being happy and then crying for a few minutes and going back to happy, I'm like, that actually takes a big level of mastery to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because some people, I know in my past, like when I was a little kid, there was like points of time where I would feel this insane amount of heaviness and almost like depression. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where it came from. I just thought that was a part of being human. And
Mm,
so, when you don't have any education around what it
right.
is, like how do you get started when you feel like a heavy emotion or a lot of anxiety? Like, how do you move it? Like, if I'm like a newbie coming to you, like, and I'm like, how do I start to process this emotion? Like, what would you recommend the first thing I do?
Yeah, I feel like, well, for me, like learning all these tools after all these years and realizing that not necessarily one tool works for the same person. Like after working with all these clients,
Mm.
I tailor it to that person and what they need. But I'd say honor your emotions. But if you have anxiety, what I've noticed is anxiety is unprocessed emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like when you feel anxious, it's almost like getting real with yourself and be like, okay, where is this anxiety coming from?
Yeah.
Why am I anxious about this? And then also just like praying and surrendering, like, okay, God, source, universe, spirit team, like, help me figure this out and help me release this. If we can't help, get out of it. Cause I know for myself personally, I used to be so anxious and overwhelmed to the point I couldn't even put words into what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't articulate what was happening because I had so much anxiety. And I feel like over time, the more you process, the easier you can articulate and the more you have tools. But for me, I used to just almost get anxious and just freeze
Mm-hmm.
and hide and just, go in my own little cocoon and hibernate and do what I need to do. So, I think there's different levels. Like if you're just have anxiety and you don't know what to do, it's just asking yourself, like, what is this anxiety coming from? What do I need to do to support myself right now? Like, what's something I can do? Like, do I need to go lay in my room? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to listen to healing frequencies? But I also feel like anxiety is also an invitation to process. Like, it's like, okay, like this is an invitation to process something. Be like, even just saying, I am anxious. I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm ready to release it. Something even along those lines is, I feel like, sign of kind of freeing, even just naming it. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like we try to run from anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, it's like we run from it and then we get more anxious. It's like, like it just keeps,
Yep.
and I feel like, we're like layers of the onion. Like we take off one layer and then get another layer and like all these things. And so it's just kind of, you release one thing and then another thing comes up. So it's, and just being patient with yourself through the process. But I feel like just, I mean, for me, for a long time, it was meditation. I still feel like it is. It's just even, I even created a 5-minute meditation and it's a smiling meditation. So when you smile with teeth, you actually change the neural pathways in your brain to naturally relax.
Wow.
It confuses your brain. Your brain's like, wait a minute, I thought you're stressed. Why are you smiling? So I even was on a plane a few years ago, and I think what it was, and this is kind of layering and processing, which kind of might help people. My dad passed away 7.5 years ago, and I used to associate, or I think of my dad with when it comes to travel because he loved travel, and I would talk to him about things, and he was from the Netherlands, and so when I go to different places, he's like, "You need to go here, be here," and like it just, I think I was on a flight. It was like one of the few flights after he passed, and it brought up all this grief.
Yeah.
But in that, it turned into anxiety over the flight, when in reality, it's like me just processing further grief for missing my dad, but it showed up as anxiety on the plane. And so I felt all these emotions, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, I gotta use my tools because I don't have the Xanax on me or anything. And I'm like, gotta figure this out. So it's like I put my hand on my chest and I just like sit like this for like a couple minutes until like the feeling subsided, and all of a sudden I was felt better. And I went on the rest of the flight, and it just because it confuses your brain. Your brain's like, wait a minute, I thought you're stressed. Like, what's up with this smiling business? So, it just that's one tool I feel like that people can use, but obviously processing is huge.
Yeah.
But it's one of those moments like whether you're going into a meeting or about to have a flight or like something, you're like, I don't have time to process this right now. Like I need to go do things. Like this is not the moment. And so that's one tool. Or like even just, there's like I have the 5 minute meditation, there's other 5 minute meditations to kind of, you know, ground yourself. And even walking barefoot on grass is also another good one to ground. But yeah, not even, I feel like naming your emotion too is good. Kind of
Yeah.
like what I mentioned before. Just being like, I'm anxious and I don't know where this is coming from, you know?
Just giving light to what you're feeling instead of like
Right.
trying to stuff it down, trying to
Yeah.
push it away. It's like the more you resist, the more it persists. So
Right.
just shining light on it and accepting that this is happening. And
Right.
just that act, I feel like will help it move into a different
Right.
direction, you know?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Um, yeah, something I notice lately, or not lately, but just like as I've gone on this path of learning how to process better, it's like the more you practice processing, the faster it goes. I've found.
Right.
Like sometimes if you're not used to crying, it might take you hours to like be able to cry. You have to like do all these things or whatever. Eventually, you'll get to a place where you're like, I know that when I just drop down into this feeling 100%, it can move in minutes, and there's even I think there's like a study or something they said it only takes like 7 seconds to really process an emotion.
Really. Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And so it's like the rest of that time is the story attached to it.
Right.
And so yeah, anything you want to speak on just about like, the bigger sphere of like not just in the moment of when something comes up, but really learning how to process your stuff because this really is the healing, right? Like we could
Yeah.
go to healers, we could do this, we could do that, but you can't invite your healer into your bedroom at midnight when you're
Right.
anxious or when you're sad or in anything like that. Like how do you in your experience or your expertise, like how does one on a longer term scale build a relationship with their emotions to the point where they know how to process better in the long term?
I don't feel like it's necessarily one thing. I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of little things, and I feel like it's just things I learned from different teachers and mentors over the years. And it's, I feel like for me personally, anxiety too is, unprocessed emotions, but it's also not trusting God, not trusting life, feeling like you have to do it all on your own.
Mm,
So it's like the more I trusted in God and the universe and like taking care of me, regardless of how things looked, that's like one of the biggest muscles you could ever work.
mm,
Because it's like you can process everything to the end of the day, but if you're not implementing it with tools that are grounded in faith and just self love for yourself, then you're just, you know what I mean? Like processing over and over. And then it's like once I got really grounded, and I feel like this is true for everybody, for all of us humans on this earth. It's like, yeah, we've all been through hard times. That's a part of life. We're all going to go through hard times. I feel like we came here to heal, we came here to transform. But at the end of the day, we've always been taken care of,
yeah. Mm,
and getting grounded in that, even when it doesn't make sense, even when everything looks like it's falling apart, reminding yourself, okay, God has another plan.
yep.
God has another plan, and I don't know what it is, and I'm just gonna keep taking the right next step in front of me. I feel like that's another trick too about,
Yeah.
especially with anxiety, like because you can have so many things. You're like, I don't even know what to do first. Like I don't even know what to work on first. It's like, what's the best right decision you can make right now?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then like once you do that, I'd be like, okay, what's the next best right decision right now? And another thing too, I feel guided to say, which one of my clients is really surprised when I said this, that when you do give yourself that permission to process and release,
Hmm.
you can be very tired for a period of time
Hmm. Yeah.
because you're getting out of almost that survival mode and not hyper, what's the word? Like just like your nervous system is just like
Fight or flight.
wound up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's almost like unwinding and processing. It's like your body, it might take a minute,
Hmm.
to process that. So being kind to yourself if like all of a sudden you feel a lot more tired
Yeah.
and realizing that's just a part of the process. It's the same. Okay. It's like you can use the analogy, like think of like babies, like growing, it's like as they're growing, they're sleeping a lot. They're growing, they're
Yeah.
transforming. So it's like us as humans, as adults, when we're processing or we're releasing, we're growing
Yeah.
spiritually, emotionally, physically. So it's like we're going to need a lot more rest too.
Mhm.
Because even for me, for a while, I'll be like, why am I so tired? I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, then over
Yeah.
time you get, figure it out and,
Hmm.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I think just like remembering that whatever we're going through is temporary. If it
100%.
keeps coming back over and over and over again, it means that we probably just have more work to do on that, right? Or
Yeah.
it's just a chronic thing. What would you say to people or like your clients that have like a chronic emotion or feeling or maybe physical ailment or something and they feel so frustrated, like, would it be that same process of just continuing to keep processing until it gets lighter? Or how, like, what would you like, I don't know, like shine light
Yeah.
for them on that?
Yeah, it's just like layers of the onion and it's just
Mhm.
kind of you keep shedding it and it's like not being so hard on yourself if you don't clear all of it, and
Yeah.
especially the things in your life that have the most charge. It
Yeah.
might, that's why I say might, because we're all powerful beings and things can happen quick or they can take a long time. It it could potentially take more time because you're shedding something, a big ball of energy, a
Yeah.
big thing in your life that
Yeah.
isn't maybe just one thing. It's like could be past lives connected to it, ancestral, like subconscious, and all these different little layers in it. So it's just the wherever in your life you feel the most charge is the place that needs the most healing.
Mm. Yeah, so true. Oh my gosh. And that's
Yeah.
usually where people run, right? They
Right.
don't want to face it. So if you're listening to this and you're frustrated with yourself, but you're doing the work, like most of the population doesn't even look at it. Most of the
Right.
population, I would say, turns away from the things that they're invited to look at, whether that's numbing through
Right.
addiction, TV, like
Social
keeping them,
media.
social media, keeping themselves so busy they don't have
Yeah.
time to sit with themselves. And so if you are listening and you are doing the work, even if you're starting, just know that you are doing a lot of amazing, courageous work because most people are just not up for the challenge. And so I want to shift a little bit into, why are we doing all this work? And we were talking about before that when we process, like this helps build our spiritual gifts. And so I'd love to hear from you, like maybe your story around that, how when you learned how to process, you discovered your spiritual gifts, or maybe someone any sort of story you want to share with us around that.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily with processing, but my spiritual gifts actually opened up. I've heard this with other intuitives that when a loved one passes away, sometimes your gifts can open up. And so I had a vision of my grandfather, and he passed before I was born. And he was on a bench and he was looking at his watch and he was like, "Hurry up, Stella." And I was like, "Okay." Like, I've never met him. I don't know anything like details about him necessarily. And I went to the funeral. My uncle was telling everyone how my grandpa always told my grandma to hurry up.
Oh, wow.
But in that moment, I wasn't like, I'm psychic. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, interesting. And um, so that's how that developed. And then I was just so stressed out. I was an account manager at a marketing company. I was so stressed out. I didn't know how to manage my anxiety and my emotions. And so that's another reason I dove into meditation and then learned how to read auras and chakras and past lives. And then I cleared all these past lives connected to like things. And then, yeah, so, but I feel like the deeper I go and process and clear things, the better I am to show up for myself, my friends, my family, my clients,
Mhm.
and um yeah, and how important that is. And so I feel like if you want to have your best life becomes so much deeper and richer the more you process,
Yes.
and it's almost like even food tastes different. I don't know if you've ever experienced that too. Like, I feel like after I even process things, not all the time, it's like I'll go through different phases in life where I'm like, wow, this tastes really good. And it's like, I feel like
Mhm.
I cleared something. And so it's like certain things in life just feel, um, yeah, deeper and richer and just
Yeah.
more, yeah. So,
100% agree. And I would say that like, when I get into a place where I feel heavy or I feel a certain way, I'm like, well, this is cool because I know where this is going to lead me. I
right.
know that when I drop into this, I'll probably come up with something creative after, which is cool.
Yeah,
And then secondly,
right.
I know that I'm shedding something, and I know at the end of this, I'm going to feel so much lighter and so much more vibrant. I'll have more clarity about something. I'll be creative, maybe write a post or something. I'm a writer. So it's like I don't fear that anymore. Like when
Yeah,
the heaviness comes, when the storm clouds come, because when things are good, they feel really good and I feel really grateful. And then when they're not, I could still appreciate the storm clouds because I know that it's leading me to somewhere even better. And I think that that could be really hopeful and helpful for people who maybe they're lost in the process or the darkness. And they're like, am I ever coming out of this? And so just to remember that there is that process of, the light and the dark, and you kind of move
yeah.
in and out of it.
I feel like I need to like record that part that you just said and like keep it where it's like when going through hard times.
Yeah.
Listen to what Brittany said right here, because it's like such a good reminder because I feel like when you're in it, sometimes it's so hard
Oh,
to
yeah.
see out of it. And especially like, you know, yeah, sometimes it is so hard. You're like, why am I feeling this? I can't, especially when you can't figure it out.
Yes.
That's when, like, I feel like when you can name it, it's, it helps. But then when you can't and you're in this state of sadness, confusion, anxiety, and you can't put your finger on it, it's almost harder because you're like, okay, what is the purpose of this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can just say, okay, the purpose of this is shedding in some form,
Hmm.
even if I can't see it, I'm trusting that it's for my highest good.
Yeah.
And then, surrendering this to, God, source, universe, my angel spirit team to help me process and release, even just saying like an intention like that, I feel like could also help too.
Yeah, and I think that, and I would love to hear from you about this. We won't get too much into all of this, but I do think it's helpful
Mm-hmm.
to have some sort of divine anchor, God,
Oh,
Jesus, an angel, your ancestors, whatever it is,
yeah.
because when we surrender, we have to surrender to something,
Oh,
right? And if,
100%. Like, I
yeah.
mean, I I have a whole spirit team. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes I try to consolidate, but like usually I'm like, okay, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, angels, archangels, guides at the highest love and light. And then sometimes
Mhm.
when I like really need support, I'm like, okay, grandma, grandpa, Oma, Opa, Dad, Aunt Irene, Helen. Like, I'm calling like my whole family. I'm like,
Yes,
everybody, hands on deck. I'm like, I need help. So, and it's
absolutely.
and it's really sweet because like even I was calling on my my Oma, that's my grandmother in the Netherlands. They call Oma Opa, and so Oma's grandmother. And on her birthday, just last Thursday, I saw somebody that kind of looked like her. And I
Oh,
didn't put it together until it was her birthday. Like I did, it took me like a day or two, a few days later. I'm like, oh, it was Oma's birthday. I'm like, maybe she's really
oh,
listening to me because I'm like
yeah.
talking to her more. So, yeah, so they're there. They're there to help us. And even my dad is like very grounded and confident and loving. And like some days, like even on Sunday when I was on my rough day, I'm like, Dad, could you just your loving, calm energy, could you just be with me today, please? And so
Yeah.
I call on
Mhm.
him too. And we've had really funny, interesting conversations. And so it's been my logical brain is like, I'm really talking to my dad, and then my spiritual brain is like, this is awesome.
I love it. I
So
love it. Yeah. And so it's, this is not to like call out people or shame people if they don't have a divine connection, but I
yeah,
just will say that it's 1,000 times easier to
right.
have something to hold on to because if we only hold on to ourselves, we're humans, we are imperfect, we are not, divine beings on this earth. Yes, we are divine within, but in terms of just like getting through our human experience, we need more than just us, right? We need
Right.
something that's going to help lift us up and to remind us that when we are walking around in the dark, sometimes that's what I call it. If I'm in a, moment of confusion or a process of time where I'm just like I'm confused, I'm tired, like whatever is going on, I'm like, I'm literally walking in the dark. And I know eventually the light is going to come in. I'm going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But for now, I'm just in the dark and that's just where I'm at. So it's like, it's scary. Who do I pray to?
Yeah.
And so I think having that connection with something outside of yourself, and I had the same experience when I really got into spirituality. It was my deceased grandmother, who
Hmm.
I never even met in my lifetime because she passed very early. But she was the one that like tapped me on the shoulder and I
Oh,
started doing work. And, when I was even before that, I would feel her and my grandfather's presence in my room and it would like freak me out as a kid. But like
oh,
she's been tapping on my shoulder this whole time. So it's like, at the very least, if you don't have a connection to God, maybe it is your ancestors. Like we
right.
all have that. So, having some sort of outside person to kind of activate us is sometimes what it takes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
100%. Having something, whether it's God or a higher power or universe or even
mhm,
just energy. I've had people just call
mhm,
on energy or light and
absolutely.
yeah, call on something. But I mean, if you feel called to a whole team, you got a whole team waiting for you.
Yeah.
It's like it's like why not take, they can only help us too if we ask because we have free will. So they're not gonna, you know, it's like if you want to build a building, it's like, are you going to try to build it yourself? Or are you going to get this whole team of people that are equipped that
Yep.
can bring different elements to it? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and we feel less alone as well.
yeah.
I want to go back to you're talking about like what anxiety can represent. I'm
Hmm.
curious if maybe we could just talk about some common emotions that feel people feel and what that might represent, according to how you kind of intuitively feel about it. So curious about like let's say deep sadness or depression. What would that represent?
Um, Unexpressed emotions,
Hmm.
I feel like,
Yeah.
and also I feel called to say this too. Like sometimes even this could represent all these emotions like anxiety, sadness, depression, where maybe there's like an element of like people pleasing and like we don't feel worthy enough to, which is hard to say, but it's like we don't feel like we can fully be our full authentic selves and sometimes we're living a life for other people,
Yeah.
and so that can bring up anxiety and depression, or like that also that idea of people pleasing. And it's like, okay, I'm going to help this person, but I forget about myself. And like that can also bring up all different kinds of emotions because if you're not expressing how you authentically feel,
Yeah.
so it could be a lot of different things, but that could be one.
Yeah, that's a big one. Totally resonate with that. What about like anger or frustration or just feeling like really fiery and like reactive?
Yeah, the same thing. It's like all
Yeah.
unprocessed emotions. I feel like they're
Yeah.
all just like anger is just almost like charged sadness or depression,
Mm-hmm.
and kind
Yeah.
of um I mean, yeah, yeah, I feel like there's so many different conversations we could go into this. So
Yeah.
but I feel like it's, it's just another unexpressed emotion that's showing up like that. It's just a charge on something and not feeling seen or heard,
Yeah.
by someone. And um, I don't know. I feel like or frustration could be like you wanting things to go a certain way. So that could be like some type of feeling like not feeling in control,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
With people that come to you in your practice or people that you're around in your life, like those who are in the process of activating their spiritual gifts, or maybe you see it in them Is there like any common archetype that you notice a trend of? Like if a lot of them have anxiety or they're struggling with similar things? I'm just curious if there's like any patterns that you notice with these types of people.
Honestly, everybody, there's so many different people come to me from all walks of life, from
Hmm.
like all different things. And it's funny because I have a lot of spiritual tools, but then sometimes I get downloads from client spirit guides for things I've never even heard or tried myself. And I'm like taking
Yeah.
notes. I'm like, can I borrow that? Like, that's pretty neat. But I feel, and another cool thing, people work with me and just their gifts tend to naturally open up. But
Hmm.
I think what it is, it's a willingness. They're also setting an intention. So it's not me. I'm just
Right.
here to support them. It's just they're setting that intention to open up spiritually. And it's like, I was in a client session where I was like, okay, I saw these blue waves and I saw, looked like your grandfather and he looked like this and da da da. And they're like, oh, I saw that too. I'm like, oh, look at
Oh, I
that,
love that.
amazing. So it's like fun, being on like an adventure with somebody and like watching them. And it's fun when you both see the same, when we see the same things, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like a spiritual playground. It's really fun, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just I forgot. I'm like, what was the question? It's like there's
Oh,
spiritual
just kind
gifts.
of,
Oh,
yeah, just
like
kind
a
of like,
pattern.
yeah, like a pattern or
Pattern. Yeah.
archetype that you see of people coming to you who need help. Like maybe they don't
Yeah.
even know they have spiritual gifts yet, but there's a lot
Right.
of like clutter that you're helping them clear
Yeah.
out first.
Yeah.
And
And
then usually they'll like unpack some gifts, you know?
well, the beautiful thing is, I don't know if you've heard this before. It's like I can only help somebody to the depth I've gone and like
Hmm.
myself. And so for me, all these years, it's like letting, processing anxiety, processing, letting go of people pleasing. And
Yeah.
like that took a while. And so, like, I tend to have clients for things that I've been through
Yeah.
and, not sometimes even knowing the verbiage on what to say or helping people with that. And just, yeah, I feel like overall, it's like a lot of people not yet living in their authentic truth and their strength yet.
Hmm.
But then, again, I'm just here holding their hand and they do all the work and, just I'm here to support them. But it's like I've had clients leave toxic jobs and toxic marriages. And I had one client and he left a toxic marriage and he's like, I couldn't have done that unless the work we did. Like that
Oh,
couldn't have happened.
powerful.
So,
Right.
it's just, and I feel like for me, that's like I was in a toxic job, and so I get it. I've been in that work environment and it's hard, and I've also had maybe not the best relationships. And so like could have toxic relationships too. So then I help people leave that. So it's just getting the strength, I think, within yourself, but it has to definitely do with like again, we're going back to like processing emotions, but it has to go back to that and just processing, but then like what are you implementing that with?
Hmm.
Like what's your next step? Like is releasing that and all of a sudden you feel more confident in yourself, and just feeling worthy, and I feel like there's different stages, like you're saying, like talking about emotions, it's like it's almost like grief. Like it's okay to have sadness and then anger and then frustration. It's like there's different layers of you leaving, it's like almost like that realization, like, and I feel like for me, processing emotions, like there are certain friends in my life that I was like, why am I friends with this person?
Yeah.
It's like all of a
I've
sudden
been
I was
there.
just, yeah. And it's just like,
Yeah.
wow, they're talking the whole time. And I am just sitting here, like, I've had friends where I'm like, I just lost my dad 2 months ago, and you're talking about the same stuff. You've been talking about work for the past year or so. Like, this does not work for me anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I think, once you get really clear, you get, less tolerant of allowing certain people and energy and things in your life. So it's, yeah, so
Yeah.
it's so important to process because you do get more clear and you get more to the core of what is best for you, but also realizing that we're humans and we're evolving and like what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow and not beating yourself up if it doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
Like, where
Absolutely.
it's like, even if it is a friend or a job or, a way of living or a pattern or a community, and all of a sudden you're like, I used to really resonate with this. Like, why don't I anymore? And like not making yourself bad or wrong for it and like giving,
Right.
and giving yourself the time and the space, be like, okay, do I need to step away from this? Do I need to go do something else? Or maybe I'll come back to this eventually or this person. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that relationships, friendships, dating relationships, like work opportunities, sometimes they are meant to just be a stepping stone and
Oh,
it's
of
supposed to
course.
be really temporary.
You're right.
And I've had a lot of experience with that as like a nomadic person. And I was chuckling when you were talking about the friend thing because I've had a lot of previous friends where I felt like I couldn't even get a word in,
Yeah.
and that could be a whole other conversation that we won't go into
Yeah.
today. But
Right.
I think when you are like a natural caregiver healer, like people can feel that energy and they want to just like take, 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 take. So it is important when you do activate your spiritual gifts, like to really have like healthy boundaries with people. And
Ooh.
and and
Yeah.
the more you keep going, I think the more you know what you need. It's easier to spot those people. It's easier to shut it down, And I've
Yeah.
many moments where I let it go on way too long, and now I would not do that, But
Right.
we learn and we grow as we go. And
Right.
so,
I know. I feel
yeah,
like I've let go of a lot of people for 17 years, but at the
yeah,
same time, I have like a few close friends, and that's all you really need. Like, I
mhm,
think for the longest time, like, I was like, I need so many friends, and like, anybody, like, we can all have lots of friends, but it's like having those friends you feel seen and you feel heard and you feel supported,
mhm,
whether it is 10, 20 friends or whether that's five or whether that's one,
yeah,
it's like not trying to make yourself need that. You know what I mean? It's just, I think the importance is the quality and not the quantity of people in
absolutely.
your life.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the more you heal,
Yeah.
the more you know yourself, the more confident you feel, like things are going to start to fall away in your life. And that's
Yeah.
usually the first thing that happens before a lot of stuff comes in. So if that's happening to you, just prepare for it and just know you're on the right track if that is happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And also sometimes those friendships can be the best, they're the best spiritual teachers,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I had one friendship that I just let her get away with a lot. I was a lot younger and I just was always wanted to make her happy. And like all of a sudden, like it made me really put strong boundaries up. And I remember I was like, I don't care if I've known you 5 minutes or 20 years. If you don't treat me with love and respect, you're out
Yep.
of here.
Yeah.
I don't care. And like I
Absolutely.
got really grounded in that, but it really had to be our friendship falling apart for me to get grounded in that,
Hmm.
and it's like I had to be really pushed over the edge, like in a certain way, which is it's the same looking back now. It's like we're now friends and like she really values me so much.
Yeah.
And, we have like a beautiful friendship and, but we had to go through that shedding process.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I would love to hear more about your work specifically. Like, how do you work with people? What does like a session with you look like or container, just so we kind of can see a little bit more clearly of like those who are interested in working with you.
Yeah. So, I always offer a free consultation. So
Cool.
anybody can go to my website, at souldesignlisa.com, book a free consultation. Cause I always like to, I don't want to say interview the person, but kind of like get to know them and like see what
Yeah.
they need and if I'm what they're looking for, because I feel like majority of people that come to me, I'm just laughing because I have a story coming up. I feel like majority of people that come to me, I'm like, yes, sounds like I'm what you're looking for. Great. But I once had this one woman who on paper I looked like everything she was looking for, but intuitively I was like, I think you're meant to work with my friend. And I gave her my other psychic friend's information, and she's like, my hairstylist gave me her same information. I was like, well,
There you
that's a
go.
sign. That's a sign. So you're meant to work with her.
Hmm.
So I always have the, complimentary free consultation just to see if we're a match and if it's a good fit. And and then say they're like, okay, great, let's book a session. I'm like, great. And then I do a meditation in the beginning,
Mm.
like 5-10 minute meditation, just tailored to that person. I do have a lot of guided meditations, but then sometimes I customize it when we're on the call if there's something in particular I feel like they need. Just because I've seen other psychics, intuitives, and energy healers, and they just like throw you in and look at you. I'm like, can we like just take like 5 minutes to kind of ground and like, because the more clear someone is, the more I see in their energetic space.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we do like a 5 to 10 minute meditation, and then I do the aura and chakra reading. So I go through each of their auras, layers of the aura, go through their chakras, get messages, and that's why I say soul designer, like spiritual, emotional, physical transformation, because it's not necessarily one thing. Like I've seen past lives, I've seen energetic cords, I've seen karma, I've seen a lot of, like, I had one client who was like, do you have really tight shoulders? Actually, it was over the phone. I didn't even see her face. And she's like, yeah, I have frozen shoulder syndrome. I'm like, okay, well, letting you know I'm putting my hands on your shoulder as a symbol that you're supported by universe. And then at the end of the session, she's like, pain's gone. Thank you so much. I'm like, great. Um, so it could be that. And then I've had clients where I'm like, what's going on with this friendship? And they're like, oh, they're going through divorce. I don't know what to do. And then I give them verbiage so they create boundaries with this person. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. So it's like they needed, because I also worked with a cognitive behavioral therapist years ago. So sometimes I give people verbiage to help with friends and family and like that. So it's essentially just seeing what's in the way of their happiest and best life,
Hmm.
what's currently in their energetic space. And the thing people don't realize is it changes. Like I only see things people are ready to shift. If they're not ready to shift it, I won't see it. Like I had one client after years, all of a sudden we saw trauma that happened when she was 13. Some kids were bullying her and it spilled over into present day life, into work, where she was overcompensating, helping employees, like other coworkers with things she shouldn't need to. And as soon as we cleared that, all of a sudden she's like showing up more confidently at work, like calling meetings and doing, I'm like, you're doing so amazing. She's like, oh my God, just like celebrating that. So it's almost like intuitive therapy, intuitive coaching. It's like processing what people are ready to process,
Hmm.
and creating a safe container for that. Um, so I feel like it's a little more efficient than say traditional coaching because
Yeah.
I can just kind of zero in, and that's the beautiful thing. What I love, what I do, because I'm essentially being the person I wish I had 20 years ago, because I see things people are ready to shift, and sometimes I help clients verbalize what's going on in their energy field. It's like I organize their thoughts and their energy and like take it out and kind of compartmentalize it where they can't necessarily do it for themselves
Yeah.
because there's so much in their head. And it's almost like I go like this in their energy field. I'm like, okay, boop, let's look at this and then let's talk about it or process it or whatever,
Hmm.
and or release it or update it with its past life with Akashic record keeper or ancestral or whatever it is. So doing that, and then I do energy healing at the end, um, looking at the spiritual, emotional, physical body and just seeing anything on the body that needs to be released. Sometimes I use my voice as a healing tool. Sometimes I do sound bowl, healing frequencies. So I've had some people fall asleep phone call. So it's just giving people guidance and helping people relax is kind of
Yeah.
what I do.
Beautiful.
So
And how could they, and we'll put your website in the
yeah.
show notes. Is that the best way to contact you or?
Yeah, to go to my website, to go to
Yeah.
souldesignlisa.com
Cool.
and book a consultation. And they can also find me on Instagram, same Soul Design Lisa, to see more about me and
Hmm.
that and how I can help them. But I feel like I definitely want to help people that are anxious and overwhelmed and people pleasers and want to develop their spiritual gifts, all the things, because I feel like those are all the things I've cultivated over all these years. And
Yeah.
so, you know, yeah.
Beautiful. And do you have like any meditations for folks that they can purchase or anything like that if they want to get a taste of your work?
Yeah, I could actually send it to you. I have a few on Insight Timer. So it's a
Beautiful.
meditation app, so I can send that. And then I also have my book on my website, Before You See a Psychic. So
Awesome.
that's, yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So
Yeah.
we'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Any
Yeah.
other thing you want to leave, words of wisdom, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, just to be kind to yourself at whatever phase you're at,
Yeah.
and don't even judge your healing process.
Yeah.
And realize, yeah, and just realizing we came on this earth to heal and
Hmm.
transform. Or let's say this, we have an opportunity to.
Yes. Yes.
But you decide, what pace you want to go.
Hmm.
And whatever pace is right for you is perfect.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. So
Yeah,
folks
thank you
who
for
want
having
to,
me.
yeah, folks that want to check out Lisa's work, you can find her website, Instagram, all that stuff in the show notes. And thanks, Lisa. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.